So hi everyone, today we're very excited to be able to announce the release of our latest market research report, which will be able to be downloaded via our social media platforms and our website as of today. This video is really a very short summary of what you can expect to read as you go through the report yourself. And a big thank you to our market research department who've put all of this together. It really aligns to what we do for developers on a day-to-day basis nationally in terms of helping them configure their product offerings around what the market is looking for. In this specific report, we've zoned into areas of Umdloti and Umhlanga town. And why we've done it is because they're very closely situated from a geographic radius perspective, but also two areas which are very significant to the property market of KZN as well as nationally. It builds on from the back of the two previous reports we've done. Our first one was on the north coast of KZN, and our second one in the beginning of this year was done on Somerset West and Stellenbosch. And we'll continue to outline key areas we believe are very significant to the property market of South Africa as a whole. Again, like I mentioned, you can download it, you can circulate it, and we really hope that as many of you as possible can have access to the report, whether you are a property developer, whether you're someone in the industry, whether you're a first-time homeowner or a serial investor. Really believe that there are going to be some nuggets of information there that will be relevant to every single one of you. So we're going to jump straight into it and just give you a high-level snapshot of what you can expect to go through. So firstly, we looked at the macro picture of KZN as a whole. We looked at the fact that KZN still is the second largest contributor towards South Africa's GDP at 16%. We also unpacked the dollar millionaires for South Africa and where they are situated. So of the 37,000 dollar millionaires in South Africa, 3,500 of those are situated just in the areas of Durban, Umhlanga and Ballito, which is a very high concentration and still gives you an idea in terms of the distribution of wealth within the country and how it aligns to a very specific pocket within the country. And just thinking to note that King Shaka International Airport arrivals continue to escalate. The international arrivals are up by 356% in the last 2 years, which is a metric that continues to push in the right direction. Domestic travel is also up. And you've got announcements such as Club Med, for example, which are all just going to continue to see escalations in terms of international airlines coming to the province, but the growth in travel itself. We looked at the building plans in terms of those that are passed versus approved. And it's another good indication in the sense that building plans approved in the first half of 2024 versus the first half of 2023 are up by 53%. And that just shows that the general investor sentiment is up quite a lot, considering that KZN went through a pretty rough ride in terms of macro factors, looting, floods, water sanitation, various different other factors, which definitely had an impact on buyer sentiment and positivity. And we really felt the area started to rally back from that. We then went into a lot of detail around this transfer stats. You'll see a huge amount of insight there specific to the different areas. And what's important to know that if you look at Umhlanga and you look at Umdloti, Umhlanga consists of Umhlanga Rocks as we know it. It also consists of areas such as Umhlanga Ridgeside, Umhlanga Town Centre around Gateway, Azinga, Lelusha. Whereas when we talk about Umdloti, we're talking about Umdloti village itself, which many of you will know, and then largely the Sibaya Coastal Precinct, which sits around the back of Umdloti and has been a massive driver of transfer and growth and population escalations within the area. Umhlanga as a whole in the last 12 months, they've done 2.9 billion in transfers at an average transaction value of 2.9 million, whereas Umdloti is about half of that, and that is again Umdloti and Sibaya combined, of about 1.4 billion, but at a higher transaction value of 3.4 million on average. But then if you isolate Umhlanga Rocks on its own, Umhlanga Rocks in the last 12 months at 806 million in transfers, whereas the Sibaya Coastal Precinct did 1 billion on its own in transfers, which just again highlights the demand and movement into securely managed mixed-use precincts, which is a trend we're seeing throughout the country, and really is also why Umhlanga as an area has continued to flourish based on the fact that many of those pockets are historic managed precincts that were created by Tonga-Hewlett developments initially. In terms of population growth, Umdloti as an area is up by 101% or doubled its population since 2011, which averages at 28 families per month moving into the area. Umhlanga has seen a lower population growth of 57% over the period since 2011, which equates to 4 families per month, but naturally coming off a much higher base in terms of development. there's obviously a lot more opportunity for development around areas like the Sibaya Coastal Precinct and around Umdloti, which is why we've seen that escalation in movement of families. We unpacked in the report the movements of LSM, and it's really interesting to see how this shifts over time and generally has a positive trajectory, which is always great to see. We also looked at the recent buyers in terms of age, but also in terms of where they're coming from. And KZN as a whole has about 9% of the segregation market nationally in terms of people moving from one city to another, which is a lot lower than the Western Cape, and it has been as a result of other factors that have occurred within KZN in recent times. But what is driving the growth of Umhlanga and Umdloti and Sibaya's areas is that Umdloti, 26% of the buyers, the recent buyers, are from Gauteng, and in Umhlanga, 27% of the recent buyers are from Gauteng, which is a very, very positive sign in terms of it being far higher from a segregation perspective than other areas of the province. The closest rival to that would obviously be the North Coast, but throughout the rest of KZN, much lower segregation numbers. And then we've looked at average prices. We've also looked at transaction values. So in the last year, across both areas, there were 1,018 transactions that occurred, which is a 40% up from 2 years previously, where there were 724 transfers. And those are always positive elements. And a lot of people who don't necessarily understand the dynamics of these areas and what's driving them wouldn't necessarily expect those levels to be going up year on year. The total value of transactions in the last 12 months was 2.8 billion, whereas 2 years before there was 2.2 billion. So that's also increased by 27%. We've also looked at the capital appreciation. We've looked at the price per square meter and how those have been broken down per areas. But then one of the things is that the average value per sale across the entire area is 9% down from previous years. And that's where the other factors such as interest rates and sentiment and stuff like that come in. But interestingly, the areas of Umdloti and Sibaya Coastal Precinct have continued to see a rise in the average value per sale, which is really positive for those particular areas and particularly positive for investors and buyers in those specific areas. And then we analyzed estates versus out of estates and went into a lot of detail around that. And you will definitely see that the pricing and the volume of sales within estates will naturally exceed those outside of estates. And we see that in pretty much every area that we analyze when it comes to those metrics around the country. And then we finish the report off by really summarizing and providing takeaways and predictions for the year ahead and the period ahead. So the key standouts would be, if you look at managed precincts, which KZN has been a massive driver of historically, they will always trump when it comes to demand. And that's when we're seeing the volume of sales that are happening in an area like the Sibaya Coastal Precinct, but also, like I mentioned, areas such as Ridgeside, Umhlanga Town Centre, all are managed precincts, which are taking a lot of the burden away from municipalities in terms of managing security, infrastructure, maintenance of various different other factors. And those are the trends we're seeing nationally in terms of the larger states almost becoming run like precincts and attracting a huge amount of demand, value creation, and amenities and facilities that complement it. So interest rates, the big thing we're all talking about. We are very hopeful that we're going to see interest rate decrease from the Reserve Bank analysis at the end of September. We are hoping that we will see up to 1% down between now and the beginning of 2025. We might see 0.25, we might see 0.5, but the reality is it's going to signal, we hope, the end of the interest rate cycle within South Africa in terms of the peak, and that it is going to stimulate a huge amount of investor confidence going forward. We've seen what's happened in the property market at the moment. We see a decline in interest rates over a sustained period of time, what it does for buyer affordability, investor confidence, and just stimulating the market as a whole. It's good for investments in the country, it's good for the rand, and really believe it's going to be a huge factor for the property market as a whole, but specifically for these areas that we've zoned into. And then probably the last factor is the macro factor. The KZN macro factor is we've obviously seen a government of national unity, which has been amazing for the country as a whole, specifically for KZN, if we're talking about these specific areas, and what it's done based on the fact that there were so many different variables that could have gone differently. We also see the period without load shedding. We're seeing more political stability within this particular node of eThekwini and KZN. And that really, really does bode well for the property market, not only nationally, but very specifically within KZN. And we really do expect a buoyant period ahead. which comes off the back of some challenging times that provinces had historically. So all of that is outlined in a lot more detail. We really hope that you'll have the time to go through it and digest it and circulate it and really unpack in your own time. But thanks very much for joining me, and really hope that you will take a lot of value out of the study. And we look forward to sharing many more with you as we zone into key nodes which we believe are really significant to the property market of South Africa. So thanks very much, and cheers.